Welcome back, everyone. If you're new here, my name is Bryan Jenks, and today we are talking about 3 of my new favorite Obsidian plugins. There's some really cool stuff being done in the plugin space around the application, and some of these plugins I'm going to show you today have some really big, powerful features. So, if that sounds interesting, stay tuned. So the 3 plugins we're going to talk about today are the Outliner plugin, Templater, and DataView. These 3 plugins, I've really started diving into them and using them a lot more in my workflow, and they've added untold benefits. DataView is like the query block syntax on steroids. Templater has the ability to basically use arbitrary JavaScript code, conditional dynamic templates, and just massively expands what we can do with templates inside of Obsidian. There was a big release recently where the syntax entirely changed, and there's just so much to unpack there. And then Outliner actually adds some really great quality of life changes that Roam Research users and other Outliner application users would really come to expect an outlining application to have if this were an outliner. But we have some new functionality with that as well. So we're going to unpack all 3 of these today because I am just over the moon excited with what I've been able to do with them thus far. So let's get into this. The best ways to support the channel are, if you're going to do it on an ongoing basis, GitHub sponsors because they take no fees, followed by Patreon. If you're going to do like a one-time thing, buy me a coffee, PayPal are just fine. And if you just want to support me without any money involved, the best thing you can do is like, comment, subscribe, share the video, and that's it. All right, so the first plugin we're going to look at is the Outliner plugin. Now, one of the things that I really did like about Roam Research, and that many people do like, is the ability to zoom in onto your bullets in the content, especially if you have a very large document, many bullet points with several levels of nesting, because that's the way that those Outliner applications are structured and the way they use data. So how do we get that same sort of functionality in Obsidian? Well, there wasn't any. The ability to zoom into bullets was something that's been widely requested for a while, and there was actually finally an application for it. Now, when I first started using it, it was kind of buggy. There was just some stuff that was going wrong to the point where it was kind of unusable. But the developer was really quick on making a lot of changes to the plugin, and now this thing is awesome, and it's now one of my favorite plugins to use because I really enjoy the ability to zoom in onto bullets. And you'll see why. But for my brain, ADHD brain, I don't want all the noise going on around. I want to be able to zoom in onto what exactly I care about so I'm not distracted by anything around, be able to focus on that and make content. And this plugin helps facilitate that. So let's dive in and take a look at it. So here is just some sample bullet points. Hello YouTube, this is a parent, child, sibling of that child. We're going to make another child here. So the way that this plugin works is exactly how you normally use bullet lists. Exactly how, except with some additional functionality. So we're going to make another child of this bullet here. But instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the parent and I'm going to zoom in. So I don't want to see this one. This is a whole nother concept. Another concept. I don't want to see these. I only want to focus on this thing that I'm talking about. I don't want to see the comp. I don't want to see any of that. Just what I'm focused on. So there are 2 keys that are by default set. You can change these. But for me, it's Command or Windows Control. Command, period. Basically like a bullet. Zoom in. Command, period. And now I'm zoomed in only on this parent and its children. And you can see there's a link up here. What's this? This is the context, or kind of like the breadcrumbs. You're zoomed in, but what's on the next level up? It's kind of like your file paths. You can see the path of where you came from and where you are now. So you'll see this as we go into deeper levels. So now we're going to make another child here. So just enter, tab. That's it. Yeah, you can add more content while you're in this view. This is why this is so powerful. So this was added with Outliner. Great. But now, okay, we're going to expand a lot more on this point right here. So what do we want to do? And actually, let me zoom in a little bit more. We're going to zoom in on another point. How is this going to affect our current view? So if I zoom in right here, Command, period, it's now going to add, another level of history. So now we can see this is the top level, the next level we zoomed in, and now we're only focused on this. It does allow us to keep context here with this little indent, but here we go. Here's another level. So let's zoom in even further. Command period. And now there's another level. So we can make a child of this child, basically like great-grandchild. I'm just going to stop saying child now. And we can make even more content. And let's just say we want to start backing up a little bit. Not fully, but okay, click there. Oh, it takes you out. Incrementally even. Or you can just go straight back to the whole view, which I'm going to do now. Bam. Okay, so now here's all the content back to the original parent view. We see everything, but we can easily pick a bullet and say, okay, I want to zoom in right here, do command period, and now it'll show us all that context again, and we're right where we want to be to focus on making even more content. This is amazing because it'll let you incrementally go back out in scope, see what you're working on, but then dive back in consistently, continually diving into deeper and deeper levels of focus on these bullet points. This way you can easily focus on just one little piece of content at a time, not get overwhelmed with all the information you're looking at, and it also facilitates the ability to have large outlines without getting lost in the noise and all the detail. And for ADHD brains, being able to focus and pinpoint onto one item or unit of work at a time inside of a swath of noise is a very critical thing that's going to be very helpful. So this plugin is amazing, and it's going to be and is an essential part of my workflow now. So kudos to the developer. This thing is awesome. And one more point on this before we go is the really cool feature of not having to select all of the child bullets anymore when you're going to do indenting. So let's just say here I am at this bullet point. I don't even have to be at the beginning anymore. This is also amazing. I can also be at the end now. But here's the new tab behavior. If I hit tab, well, I guess it didn't work that way. Oh, because that one doesn't have children. We'll do this one. So if I hit tab here, it will indent this bullet and all of its children. So that's two changes. One, you don't have to select all the children to indent anymore. All children are automatically indented. And two, you can now select at the end of the line and indent instead of the beginning. Whereas before, it used to just add a tab character, the invisible white space, towards the end of the line. This is awesome, because now I can just click at the end of the line and indent the tab. Just like that. So much easier. I love this plugin. So this next plugin, I'm going to talk about DataView. DataView is a really, really cool new plugin that allows you to basically query your notes. We already have the native query syntax in Obsidian, which basically uses the existing search system. So specific types of searches like section, line, file, content, etc., allowing for some regex. Pretty powerful, able to do a lot. And yeah, so one thing that this plugin actually does a lot better is that you actually have options for the aesthetic output and how this looks. And I'll show you what this means in a bit, but we also have the ability to kind of write SQL against our notes. Now, that's kind of like, I think it was a joke about this plugin from the developer, is that this plugin is sort of in a sneaky way teaching people how to write SQL code. And it's just funny because I actually write SQL in my day job. So it's actually really true. This is basically how SQL statements are formed. And this is a really useful plugin because using specific pieces of metadata, including custom fields in your YAML headers, there's just so much to unpack. So we're just going to dive right into some of these views, tables, queries. Oh my God, there's so much to unpack here. The Notion users are really excited because this might ease the pain of leaving a database-oriented application. So there's a lot that you can do with this. So let's just dive in. I'm so excited. So inside of DataView, you have a bunch of this. This is all the syntax. This is basically straight from the documentation. There's a bunch of options we have, and really all you need to know about this is that you got 3 views, you got add some fields, you can do from tags, folders, or a specific link or outgoing links. You can do where criteria to basically test things where something is equal, greater than, less than this, or and this, or oops, knocked over my tray. That's what happens when you talk with your hands. So yeah, you can do a bunch of different where criteria, basically saying, I want things where these conditions are met. And you can also do chains, so this and this, or this, and any combination of the Boolean logic. There's also the ability to sort the output, ascending or descending, based on fields, and then you can also do several levels. So ascending on this field and then descending on this one and ascending on this one. We're going to show examples of all of this, so don't freak out. And this is already really powerful because this is basically writing SQL. So let's take a look at some of these. Now there are 3 views that you get in DataView. And those 3 are table, and this is the table view. So basically, most of these examples I'm going to be using either my ADHD mock note and or the workbench note. But for instance, if I query all the information into a table from outgoing links from the ADHD note, basically everything linking out to ADHD, what do I get? And send me the output as a table. So this is basically how SQL statements are formed. Now let's just do a little bit of an aside. So I'm just going to say T-SQL. Now the order of operations in here, in T-SQL, is basically this. You start at from. So basically, what are you trying to get? And in this case, we're using ADHD as my ADHD mock note. So from what? Now the second thing is where. So this is where you would actually run your where criteria. We don't have any. Now, so that's just, okay, so nothing. There isn't, as far as I know, none of group by and having don't exist yet, and they might be being worked on. But for now, those don't exist in concept in DataView, so don't worry about it. So from ADHD, where conditions, we don't have any. Now we go from number 5, select. Okay, so what am I grabbing? I am grabbing, by default, it grabs the file names, which is why we saw the file names. And I'm also grabbing the tags. So the tags are also here. So from ADHD, where we don't have any criteria, select name and tags, got those. And then distinct doesn't exist, top doesn't exist, we go straight to order by. So basically it's from, where, select, order by. And the order by is ascending or descending. We'll unpack that later, but this is basically SQL. So I'm really excited because this means we can basically query our notes with natively. So anyways, tangent over. This is the table output. It'll put it into a very nice aesthetic table, columns, headers, all this. Awesome. That's a table. Now that's as simple as I'm going to make the example because that's all we really need to unpack with that. So now let's look at the next one, the list view. The list view is just a bulleted list. Now there's some weirdness going on here where there's a colon and then the tag. You can't click it though. It's just a display of the tag. So table actually requires an additional field to be added. So if I, for instance, uncommented table and remove the tags, it doesn't like that. Basically, it's going to already input the name of the file anyways, so you can't leave it blank. So we actually have to add tags. That's what makes it appear. And notice how wicked fast that is. Bam. DataView is really quick, so that's also a plus. Now with list view, you actually don't need any additional fields. You can just do a list and it will output an entire list. And these are the actual links themselves. So in this case, basically inserted backlinks, you can do that. Just have a DataView list from outgoing and then have like a template for inserted file name. Therefore, anytime you make a new note, you have basically embedded backlinks like that. I mean, if you're not going to use publish, that's a great way to do it in preview mode. Amazing. But if you add additional fields, you'll actually have them added in this list view. I'm not sure what happens if you add additional ctime. I guess it doesn't like that. So I guess we can only add like one additional field, not multiple. So I learned something new. So that's the list view. Now the next one is the task view. Now you notice here at the bottom of my workbench note, I have a single open task item. Now task is really great because this is an easy way of finding all of your open tasks and to-dos throughout your entire vault, but not just for your entire vault, like some of these other plugins. This one will actually let you query tasks on certain notes with a certain tag, in a certain folder, or with a certain name. So for instance, we're actually going to do some where criteria here. So we're going to say, show me all tasks from empty quotes. What that means is everything, because inside quotes is how you denote a folder. Now up here in the documentation, you can see tag, you just do hashtag in the tag, or you can do a folder, but it has to be in quotes. And then you get the stuff for the links. So in this case, the empty quotes is basically saying a folder. What folder? I'm not giving you a name. It basically defaults to the root, everything, your root folder of your vault. So from our entire vault, show me all tasks where, what's our where criteria? We're excluding things now, where the file name is equal to the workbench. So in this case, only show me tasks from the workbench note, because the workbench note is in the root of the vault. Okay, so if we check the output, uncomment, here is the task. And now with the task view, it'll actually make a heading for the actual node itself. I guess for context, this is useful. Sometimes if you have a lot of things that, a lot of results, this can get kind of spammy, but I use this in my work. I actually will have a list of tasks shown to me from a bunch of different files just based on a query into a folder, such as my daily notes. So this is really useful because now I can also, this is one little caveat, is that you can't complete these tasks in this view from the output of DataView. You can click on the actual node itself, I think. Well, actually, this is the node itself, the workbench node, and it would actually take you there to the node itself, and then you can complete the task. But one quality of life change I would personally request is probably the ability to complete tasks in the output view. But that is the task view. All right, moving ahead. We can now add fields. So we basically have our select. We have a table view, but what do we want to see besides the file name? Well, we just want to see the file name. Okay, yes, obviously, from everything, where the file name is equal to the workbench. So we should only see workbench, right? And we want to actually add a sort. We'll get to sort later on. Just ignore that for now. So if I actually uncomment this, and I gotta deal with a little bit of this syntax here. Okay, if we uncomment that, interesting. Why do I have two copies here? Now this is just a quirk of my own personal vault. If I did file.path, you could see that one of these is in the root, my main vault, and then one of them is actually in a sub vault, my CRM vault. So I actually have two workbench notes. So that's another useful thing. Oh, file.path. Yeah, that actually shows you the file path of your notes if you had folders. So that's really useful. Basically, you can add a comma separated list of any of the pieces of data that you want to have queried. So let's add a bunch. Let's add all of these. So we have file.path. I'm going to add all of those. Wow, that's a lot. Okay, so let's actually get rid of some of these. Get rid of the file name. All right. Wow, so what do we got here? We actually can query aliases. Whoa. Yeah, at the top of this workbench note, I have bench, workbench, bench, workbench. Aliases. Nice. We have tags. We already saw that, and here's the emoji tag. We have file size. That's interesting. Probably would not really use that very much, but hey. You have file created time, which is C time, and file modified time, which is M time. So these are really useful because now you can actually do logic based on those fields of time. And we're going to get into that into the next section, the where clause. But here's some other things I want to show you about DataView and the fields. Now you saw aliases here. This doesn't have like a dot syntax, file.name or something. It's one of those built-in things like tags here. We have tags. And if we added an additional tag, we could actually make this an array. And we could actually make a YAML array and input. Let's just do a map. There we go. Close off the array. And now we should be able to see. And this does take time to refresh sometimes. So you need to review. Actually, probably need to close it. Open up another copy. Then render. That's one of the it's kind of a pain point. It's just kind of annoying. It's hard to refresh sometimes. But there, we now have an additional tag. So this is a way of easily getting a bunch of data points about a note. But this is all pulling off of the YAML header. How does this work, and what can we do with that? So DataView can not just pull these built-in pieces of information from the files. You can add and make your own custom data points to query from by basically taking over the YAML header of your documents. Yeah, you heard that right. You can make your own data and query it, just like SQL. So what does this look like? If I have, let's just say I have these two aliases, or the aliases here. Yeah, I have these two aliases. This one, data, is actually a parent because it has a colon to another child. So basically, my alias data has a child, more data. Okay, we're gonna have to do a weird little hard reset again, so bear with me with this. Now, whoa, okay. Let's actually zoom out a little bit so this looks a little bit better. Is that now, if you can see this, aliases now shows data colon more data. So you can actually see the child. Whoa, Okay, zoom back in for legibility. Let's actually remove a bunch of this stuff so you can actually see better. Okay, so now we have all these aliases here. And what I want to do is I want to say, okay, well, is there some way we can actually zoom in on just data for some reason? What if data has a bunch of children? And we could say even more data, data galore. Great, we got 3 different points. And again, annoying, but we got to actually open up another copy and render. Oh, interesting. What happened? We didn't remove aliases. Why did they go away? Not sure. So let's actually try and remove 2 of these. And maybe that's actually, it only likes 1 child field. Maybe that's it. So let's actually render again. And it likes it. I just learned something. So one thing we can actually do is we can actually access other pieces of data. So aliases just shows us the entire list of aliases, but we want to actually access this parent, or this actually it's a child and its grandchild. So what can we do? Just like with code, and when you do dot methods, you can actually do field dot subfield. So I can say aliases dot data, and now we're only seeing the result for aliases and the child of the data alias. In this case, more data. Whoa. So basically you can make whatever you want, because now if I made this its own data point here, so now data, there's nothing going to upgrade anything over here. So now if we actually get rid of this and we just say data, oh, so just by typing the name of the field, which is now data, in the YAML header, it has a value, a child, more data, that is already visible here. So I can make anything. I can make anything now. So I could say, let's just say name, and that's Bryan, and yeah, height, tall. So now we can easily just add more data. We could just say name, there's a new name, and then height, tall, right there. I just made my own data right in front of you, and now I can query it. So now I can say where file.name equals workbench, and where name equals Bryan. And so now I can now add exclusionary criteria based on custom data I just made myself right in front of you, because this is basically using SQL. So we can easily do and, or, nested Boolean logic, and query our own custom data. But wait, there's more. We can actually do certain things like aliasing our data field names. This is just, again, like SQL. So let's get rid of some of this stuff here. And I want to see file.ctime. So this is the time the file was created. This workbench file was created on April 5th. So I'm actually going to remove the exclusion here so I can see multiple values. Okay, this is one other little caveat thing, is that if you do some weird stuff like I do a lot of command line regex replacements, which means like I scan every file and I make a text replacement sometimes. When you do that, it actually changes a lot of these fields here. So now everything says I created it on April 5th. So it's kind of annoying, but it is what it is. But anyways, file ctime is when it was created. We can actually do modified too. Actually, let's just do modified. That might be a little bit better. But now we can actually add additional granularity. So I want to see the modified time, but not the time, the whole thing. I want to see, as you can see there, I want to see .year. Oh, okay, interesting. But that's a long name. What if I just want to have single fields? So now you do the typical SQL syntax as, and we're going to say modified, year, my, modified year. And this can go exactly how far you think it can go. So now, instead of having a bunch of individual pieces, I can basically say, change this to day, change this one to a month, and now you have timestamps in a single field column. Okay, but now we want to say, okay, and where file.mtime.day is greater than 10. So you remember the other example was that there was April 10th and April 11th for modified time. If I remove the exclusion, you can see, okay. But now you can also do this for your exclusionary criteria, where the day value is greater than 10. And you can add multiple levels. I don't think I tested how to do just a straight date string, like year, month, day, ISO 8601 date stamp. But this alone already is really cool, especially when we get into the where section next. So let's go to the next one. So diving into the where criteria, this is basically just telling the DataView plugin, I want to see things where all of these criteria are met. A file name equals this, a data field is greater than that, less than this, or whatever. And then you can string them together saying and. I want all of these things, this and this and this, or this and this, or that and that. And you can basically do groupings this way. So one of the things we're going to do here is we're going to show some where criteria. So now on this query, I have, okay, it can be the aliases, tags, file size, creation time, and modified time of all outgoing links from ADHD. So now if I remove the where criteria, you're going to see there's a bunch of stuff here. There's a lot of data. Okay, but if we add the where criteria, what am I doing? Where the file modified time for the day value is greater than 6. Basically, whatever month it was modified on doesn't matter. Whatever year doesn't matter. But what day? The day it was modified on any month of any year has to be greater than 6. Now, I'm not 100% sure. There might actually be some magic in the background that's saying it has to be based on current year, current date. I'm not sure. But for instance, what I'm going to do here is if I remove this, you can see there's a bunch of file modified time. Only the mock, the ADHD mock, has April 10th. Everything else is April 5th. So April 5th is less than April 6th. Show me where file modified day is greater than 6. And that's why only this is the result. That's it. And you can sort based off of descending, but we're going to get into sort later. So that is basically the where criteria. And I showed you an example earlier where we could do file name and whatever. But now let's get into a little more interesting stuff. Here's a bunch of criteria. So I have aliases, I have tags, file size, and then I have creation, year, month, day, modified year, month, day, and all of these for all of my ADHD notes. And again, I can actually add filter criteria for the day where it's greater than 6. Cool. Now, because I don't have a variety of modified and created date times because I do my command line regex replacements, I can't really show you a great example, but you can also do things where you can actually have it be where year is greater than or less than 2021 or something like that, and then the month and then the day, and actually add selective and incremental filters. But this also comes to light when we do sort, and you'll see what I'm going to talk about that in 1 second. Okay, so sort. The sort field here will actually let you dictate multiple sorts to do after each other. So basically, I want to sort by the year descending. Okay, so that means the earliest years or the most recent years at the top. Then I want to sort by month ascending. So that means I'm going to see the most recent year, but the beginning of it, January. And you can see how it'll do this sort, then this sort, then this sort, and it does it granularly and by levels. So now, if I remove this sort here, I can see I am querying everything. So from everything in the root, show me a table of tags, year, month, and day of these notes. And yeah, okay. So I have this is basically my entire vault. Show me everything in the vault. Okay. So there's a bunch of stuff here. Now these are actually, that's interesting. These are actually folders, not files. So that's interesting. But here's what I care about is that we have a bunch of notes here. Some of these are in 2021, and we're sorting based off of year ascending, which means we're going to start with the earliest year. We're going to start by month descending, so we're going to get the latest month. So instead of being January, it's going to be December. And then day ascending, which now says the earliest day of the month. So oldest year, and then oldest month, and then earliest day. Interesting. And you can see each is set incrementally. Year ascending, month descending, and day ascending. And you can type ASC, DESC, or the actual AES ending. I don't like to type it all out because, like most SQL programmers, I am lazy. And there we go. So now we could also do this with the where criteria. Let's unpack this. So now I could say where file.ctime.year is greater than 2020, and now only 2021 stuff is shown. I actually don't want that. I want it to be less than 2021. So now we're looking at everything that's older, everything from 2020. So, and where file dot, and I wonder if I can just do the field name where m is equal to 12. Nope, can't do that. So we're going to do file dot ctime. This is the same in SQL. You can't use the aliases in the where criteria. Is equal to, let's do 5. Nope, nothing. It's 4, 3, 2, 1. Interesting. Let's see. Can we do less than 11? Yes, we can. So now everything less than 11. So that means that we're going to get everything from October to January. We're going to get listed. And now I want to see only on the 11th of October. So let's do and file.ctime.day is equal to 11. There we go. And just like that, I was able to filter with where criteria of the year equals 2020, the month is less than November, so anything before November, and the day is equal to the 11th. So this is when these files were actually created. And these are actually some of my templates. Nice. That is amazing. We can sort, filter, query, add, and create our own custom fields and data and query those things, and then apply logic to those custom data fields. If your data field says Bryan is your name, you can filter out all your notes and only show a list, table, or the tasks from notes that have a data field that says name is Bryan. Wow. Just imagine the possibilities. This is a lot of the functionality that's available, but there's even more in the documentation to unpack. I'm just not going to go through all that. I think that's a great amount to get you started, but that's DataView, and holy crap, it's amazing. All right, last and certainly not least is something I've been spending the last few days playing around with and really getting some cool results with. Templater, the plugin that lets you define your own custom templates using your own command line utilities. Yeah, it's expanded to even more greater heights of functionality. So Templater already lets you basically write your own scripts and put them in your executable path so that you can basically just get the output of shell commands and insert the output into your notes. That's really useful. I honestly just didn't really have a use case to really play with that too much. I could make it work, I could get some output, but I just really wasn't getting a lot of value from it, so I didn't really use it. But some of the new stuff that has been added to the new Templater features, including a new syntax, allows for some crazy stuff, especially date math, that lets you kind of get rid of a couple extra plugins that do the exact same thing. So let's dive into Templater. So I'm not showing anything at the moment, but what we're going to look at is where were we and where did we go? So Templater used to have the functionality of having double squiggly braces and then the actual template inside. Now this is actually how the core template features are used. This one is actually the Obsidian core template, and this would be replaced to actually be the title of the note. Templater kind of took this over and said, okay, we're going to be specific to ourselves, TP for Templater plugin, title. And that was what it was using to insert the title. But now, based on the new syntax, Templater actually is going to have something distinct for itself. This way, there's no stepping on toes or any sort of weirdness going on. So now, this feature looks like TP for Templater plugin dot file dot title. And now, a lot of extra syntax, but when you insert this, let's actually open up the title template I have, just exactly that. If I insert title, it'll insert the workbench, just like that. So with the new syntax, you do have to go and update all of your old templates and all the times they're referenced. And because of the power of Templater and the new date math features, I basically don't need to use periodic notes. I don't need to use the daily notes. Actually, I think I might still use that one. and I don't need to use the calendar functionality for the yesterday and today. I don't need, oh man, I don't need the built-in template features either. There's everything. This thing can do so much. And I basically have year, month, week, and daily notes using a lot of the date features of Templater. And we're going to go over all those in specific. So the documentation on Templater also looks amazing. Now, this is hosted from the actual Git repo. And to be honest, I just opened up the actual code itself to look at it. But this is actually a great view of some of the documentation. Now, it's a work in progress, so don't think that this is all completed yet. But there's a lot of great work being done on this plugin that just really makes it so powerful. And the documentation just looks great. Yeah, so I combed through this and I figured out a bunch of different things that I wanted. Here are the modules. This is what you really need to look at, is like, what am I going to be able to insert? So I did tp.file.title, but if you go here, there's a bunch of other stuff you can work with in here. Cursors, clipboard, content, selections, tags, titles, bunch of stuff, and more is being added all the time. So let's actually return. And we're going to take a look at some of my templates. So I do a lot of temporal reviews, which means I have my daily notes, then I have weekly reviews, monthly reviews, and then an annual roll-up. Let's look at the templates. So I'm going to close everything here. So the first thing we start with is my daily notes. So the daily note looks like this. When rendered, nothing crazy, but really, I have it render so that this first day here, actually, I'll just insert one for an empty day for tomorrow. So now here's tomorrow's daily note. If I open up the template on the side, okay, here's the template on the right, and here is the daily note on the left. So it'll insert 2020 and then the current date, today, the current day, but only the month and the day portion. This way, I'm actually able to say on this day, and here's the daily note from the prior year, and I can have a list forevermore, because I journal daily, a list of, and constantly running, hey, take a look at this day last year. Kind of like the Facebook stuff, but less annoying because it's not Facebook. And this way, I change this once a year after the year rolls over, and now I'm in a new year. January 1st, add it. So I do have a little note here for anybody who uses my templates that this one does require the calendar plugin. Not anymore, actually. I should actually remove that, because the calendar plugin is not required, because these actually were using the curly yesterday and tomorrow. And now you can just do that with Templater. tp.date now, what's the format? And I use the ISO 8601 date standard, which is year, month, day. And then the offset, -1 and 1. That's it, tomorrow and today. So today is actually the 11th, so yesterday was the 10th, and tomorrow's the 12th. So that's why you have those. And so that's it. Now I also have some other stuff down here. Nothing got inserted, but there's stuff here. What happened? So I actually have two little pieces of functionality here, and these are the make a yearly note and make a weekly note. Actually, I think I might have accidentally deleted the monthly one. But what this does is this is actually saying I need to add a yearly note and a weekly note if a condition is met. So in this case, if the day is Saturday, then I need to make a weekly note, because that's when I do my weekly reviews. But let's change this. Let's actually change this to Sunday. And let's actually insert this daily note again. So if I insert daily, now I have a task, make a weekly note, because I want to remind myself to do that. I need to do my weekly reviews, because when I insert the weekly template matters, because I use, again, these date offsets. So in this case, I can actually do that. And I'm going to make a note to make monthly note there, because I actually should be doing that. So my bad. But now let's actually take a look at my weekly note. So if I take a look at the weekly, what's going on here? So with this one, I actually have this insert a custom template for a character, and then wait, what's going on there? So if I actually insert a new week, let's do the 16th, okay, create. Here's what it actually creates, is that it creates these weekly notes. It starts with a W and then the actual number of the week. That's how you actually denote. You want plain text added to your output from the template. So you notice in the template, it had in square brackets, the big W, then the two W's. This actually inserts a double-digit number of the week. So if it was a week 1, it would be 01. If you only did one W, then it would be 1. And then that 1W would also turn into 14 or whatever down the line, but I wanted the leading zeros. So I always add 2Ws for 2-digit characters for the week. And the rest of this is basically something you've already seen. It's, what is the 7 days ago to today? That's the coverage of the week. And then each of those days offset by, an incrementing number. So that way I can have a list of all of my bullet points and I can type my review notes. And let's say I got a lot of notes for a week. I can use the outliner plugin from earlier to zoom in on this week and type my notes. And when I'm done, return to the parent and there's my notes. It's that easy. But depending on when I actually insert these this template, because everything is dealing with offsets, I actually need to be careful. So based on these offsets, I need to insert on Saturdays, which is why my daily note has that reminder to insert the weekly note on Saturday, which I actually need to change back so I don't forget Saturday. And just because I wanted to be clear about Saturday, if you do 3 Ds instead of just 2, it'll actually give you this piece of a date part. If you did 4 Ds, it would be the full name Saturday, but this is good enough for me. So that's the weekly and daily notes. My monthly note kind of does a similar thing. We have the W's and the weeks here, and then I do offsets with 28 days. Why do I do that? I do that specifically for, actually I probably should just be 30. I was thinking about like leap years or short Februaries, but honestly I probably should just do 30. Unless, oh wait, I was probably doing that because I was actually on like the 28th of the month or for whatever reason, but not important. Basically, first of the month, I will add a monthly note, and so it's not really an issue. But there we go. Actually, I'm gonna change it to 7. So this way, it will insert a monthly note, and it'll have the M in the beginning, and the rest of this is exactly something you've already seen. So if I actually went to if I actually wanted to make a new monthly note, so let's actually just do, let's just make test. So test and insert a monthly. So now the monthly, what happened here? This is an issue that I need to fix that is actually from the, I think, periodic notes or the, periodic notes use this. So this can actually be resolved using templater, which I fixed on my other template, and I will fix it here. But I can actually have it dynamically say, hey, from this week, and then add 7 days, add 7, and that way when I insert the monthly note, it'll be each of those weeks from that beginning. But I actually am probably not going to do that just because it's kind of too volatile for when the month begins. And yeah, so that's the monthly note. I'm just going to delete that one. Open up monthly. Not again, monthly. And I need to fix that. So here I'm going to be leaving live notes for myself. Fix. Okay, and then yearly note. So the yearly note is also similar, but in this case, it starts with a Y, and there's nothing else that comes after it because it's basically the year. So the year and then a Y character. So if I opened this up and I just did 2021, here it is. This is this year's annual roll-up. And you'll notice I actually have different folders under journal for each of these reviews. I have annual, I have weekly, and I also have journal monthly. So I have daily, weekly, monthly, and annually. So I have each of these items rolling up in folders. And when I connect them on my graph, you'll see something really cool. But in here, I actually have an offset. So for the first of the year, the prior year and the next year right there. And then each of these increments by 30 days. So this way, when I do it on January 1st, most likely it's going to be hopefully accurate. I might have to tweak this when I do this next year, but I only have to insert this once a year. It'll actually insert the name for each of those years or months. So test again, insert yearly note, and there we go. So today, this is actually April, so May all the way through to April. So if I did this on January 1st, theoretically, this would just insert all of these monthly notes. And that's exactly what I want, other than I actually want them transcluded. So that is my, basically my roll-up of each of these reviews using date math with the templater plugin. So looking at the output of this, if I actually show you my graph and filter based off of the path to my journal and look only at my daily notes, this is basically how my daily notes look, is that it's this large interconnected web where you might have a year connecting to months, which connect to weeks, which connect to daily notes. And that's basically the structure here. And so that way everything connects and all these reviews are densely interconnected with each other. So the weeks connect to each other, and then like breadcrumbs, the weeks connect to each other like breadcrumbs, the days do, the months do, the years do, and then they connect to their actual children. The year 2021 has 12 months. Those months have 52 weeks, and those weeks have all of the 365 days. And so with this, you get this large interconnected web of daily notes and reviews and logs. And it's all basically just done with templates. I just type my daily content, and that's all there is to it. I open up my little Alfred snippet, and I can add a journal entry and just type in some content, and that's all there is to it. And then it appends it to my daily note. So my journaling is actually really quick, and then I just do my reviews, and they're linked up with templates, and that's all there is to it. Now, something interesting to note with my daily notes, the daily template, is there was something interesting in there. Conditional flow logic. What is that? So when you actually have the template syntax start with an asterisk versus there are some other options, but I'm just going to talk about this one. This is actually basically letting you run JavaScript. So if, and then the JavaScript syntax, basically think of this like JavaScript. So if we took this out and I insert, JavaScript, and I put this in here, get rid of the templater syntax like that, this looks remarkably like JavaScript, does it not? You could easily input string, and this is basically a test condition for this if statement in JavaScript. That's what it is. That is what it is. So now, if tp.date.now, basically now the month and day is equal to 1/1, basically is it January 1st with no leading zeros, then make a yearly note. So if this is true, then actually input this content, which is why, oh yeah, duh, it doesn't, because today is not January 1st. But here's what I can do. If I do 4 and 11, today's date, 4/11 for me, and insert my daily note basically into my daily note, daily, now it should, I actually had a little bit of an error. I actually need to wrap this in quotes because the output of this is not going to be a single number like this, where I can just put a 1, but it's going to be a string like Saturday. So 4-11, basically today. So I'm trying just to trigger the condition to happen today. So if the date, month-day, output string equals basically today's string, then insert yearly note. If I insert my daily template, now only the yearly note task is actually inserted, but exactly as I would want it to be. So that's actually a really useful part of this plugin, is that now you can do conditional logic. Basically, if a condition is met, then insert this content. Otherwise, don't insert anything. So basically what I did is I made a meta template. Now this normally was just my default template, but now it's my catch-all. So if I open meta, whoa, what is all this? So let's back up. Okay, basically each of these is an if statement. This is the result, and then they just continually go else if, else if, else if, because it's JavaScript syntax. So you can basically string all of these if statements into just one giant block of code. And that's what I did. So I have all of my templates, my book template, my person template, tweet, podcast, YouTube, article, etc. And what this is doing is it's saying if the file title, and oh, this is something that you will not see in the template or documentation. This is just JavaScript. I knew what I was looking for. I want to look at the string for the title, but I want to grab the character at the index 0, basically the first character of a file name. And this is what this is how this is so powerful. I can run arbitrary JavaScript like this on the data that we have available to us through the templater plugin, API, object, I don't know how you would want to refer to it, but we can actually run our own custom code now inside of Obsidian. No external scripts, everything located here inside of Obsidian. What this looks like, what this does, imagine. Let's look at just these first two lines. If the title character at the first position starts with a brace. Now remember, early on, I've been classifying all of my inputs with their file name starting with a special symbol. Why? Because when I open up the quick switcher, type that symbol, everything is filtered to the notes that just have those symbols in it. Yes, I have aliases for some of these programming notes, but all of the notes themselves that start with that character float to the top. Then I also have temporal information, 2021 or 2020. Now I have the temporal component that will also help me filter this information. Then I could even do textual, smart. That way I have several ways of filtering through a large swath of information as my system scales. But I also knew and thought that this would actually come in handy later on when things like this exist, because now I have a way of classifying whole chunks of information and inputs. So, because the first character of those files starts with a brace, what are we inserting? Now there's a cursor template, and basically this actually just places your cursor. It's kind of like the VS Code tab stops. It's a little bit more verbose instead of just like a $sign and a number, but hey, I'm not complaining. I finally have my cursor control with templates, and this makes me so happy. But now put the cursor at the top and then include file include. Oh, this is the power. File include inserts the content of a template into the current file. So basically, if this is running the insert template action based off of conditional flow logic. File starts with that, then insert this template. Otherwise, test the other conditions. And because this template has templater, syntax in it, it still will resolve all of those. So let's check this out. I'm going to open up my meta note. Basically, this note is just called brace because it connects. If I render this as a query to show all of the books that I have notes for in here. So there we go. There's a list, and this is what this note is for. It's really just to link to it, because now if I do, a local graph, it'll also link here, but I also have the query, but I also have the name. So if I open name, there it is. But let's test this out. At the beginning of this, I have a book template, book, and it looks a lot like this. This is all the stuff that goes into the book template. So instead of having to go here and remember the name of that template, I can just insert one thing for any note. Insert meta. Now, meta, we just looked at that, has just all the logic. If it starts with that, insert the book. Let's do it. Insert meta. And it inserts the book template. Why do I put the cursor template at the beginning? Because for some reason, templater will insert with a blank line at the top, and I don't like that. So I put my cursor right at the beginning so I can just hit backspace. And then, it's a small workaround, but I don't care. That is so, so cool. Because now if I do this for any other type of note, any other note, it will insert the correct template every time. And if I was even so crazy, I could insert additional cursor points into here and just do the templater tab through them, which is option tab for me. But holy crap, because now I can go to anything. I can just say, hey, we're gonna make a new note called test, insert meta. It inserts my default meta template. It starts at the beginning, so I can do that, but here's another cursor. So if I do option tab in this plugin, it's gonna take me to the next cursor, option tab, and now I'm at the beginning, content, type out my content. That is amazing. So that is some of Templater's functionality, and I'm already just over the moon excited. I can insert things dynamically. I can run control flow, it's just literally too much to say. It's so exciting to have this much control and power over the data, the files, the programming, control flow logic, dynamic templates, little pieces, cursor control. Oh my gosh, it just gets better and better over time. This is the best knowledge working application I've ever used. Now, the templater documentation does cover a lot of additional things I didn't talk about today. There is more to dive into. I just want to show some of the really cool and exciting things I've been doing with it. And I do want to cover one more thing. If you still make custom templater templates, you add them into the interface. Oops, I closed it by accident. If you actually open them up, I need to open up my vault again for some reason. And open up the settings. We're going to open up templater all the way at the bottom here. And you have the ability to add your own user functions. Basically, this is where you can run your system command, echo test, and I'm going to call this echo. Okay, so that is a new user function. We can access these, and I haven't done this, so it might break live if I do it. But what you should be able to do is actually make a new note, test, and then move that to templates, and then insert what I was typing, tp.user.template. echo. So user is the object we're accessing to grab the user-defined templates, and we're grabbing echo. So echo is just going to insert like some text. Now, if we go back to the workbench, insert test, it breaks. I'm not sure why, but there we go. It might just be something like that, or maybe it's actually looking to expect a actual script. I don't know, to be honest, but that is how you actually would insert your own custom templates, is by defining them and doing a better job of getting your scripts and everything there. But last chance I'm going to give myself. I'm just going to say date. So let's try that. Test. Yeah, no. So, nah. But you would actually use the .user object to insert your own templates, but I honestly just don't need it at this point because I can dynamically insert whatever I want with Obsidian and Templater itself. So I already got enough. I want to know what you're going to use Templater for. How are you using it? What are some cool things you've made so that I might want to add to my own workflow? Because right now I am having so much fun playing around with all these little pieces and connecting things together. I want to see what you made. So if you have any questions about what I did, how I did something, or something breaks for you, but it worked for me, don't post in the YouTube comments. If you're going to ask me questions, send that to my FAQ repo. Link to in the description for that. That's where it's better to ask me questions, especially with things dealing with code, because it's on GitHub. So if you're going to ask me questions, send them there or my Discord server. But I prefer the FAQ repo because then everyone else can see them. I hope you all enjoyed all of the magic and wonder of Templater and DataView and Outliner. These are three of my currently favorite plugins for this application. I am just over the moon with some of the things that I'm able to do now in Obsidian. I'm really not missing anything from anything else. Like, everything I need is in here now because everyone is just making these amazing plugins. So to the developers of these plugins, great job, really impressed, and I am just so thankful that we have you in the community to make this extended functionality for everything that we wanted and missed in Obsidian. So thank you. And quick note before we go, a big thank you to all of the GitHub sponsors and Patreon patrons who support this channel. None of this is ever required, and I appreciate everyone who supports this channel, and that people seem to enjoy listening to me talk about nerdy things on the internet. So thank you for your support, and I will catch you all in the next one.